Tessa Marchington from Music in Offices today. So Psychologies, every lunchtime we're doing a brilliant 1 p.m. Broadcast with experts from all over the world, brilliant experts who can literally uplift the spirits of the nation in this weird and wonderful time that we're currently going through. So Tessa, welcome to our Psychologies broadcast. Lovely to see you today. I'm so excited to talk to you because music used to be such a massive part of my life when I was a child. I used to belong to a choir and all sorts of things, but not so much now. So I'm delighted that you're joining us to talk about the role of music in our lives. Hello.
Thank you, Susie. Thank you for having me. And I hope that by the end of our chat, maybe music will become more of a current part of your life. You can take part in some of our events that we'll chat about.
I do. My problem is I get too over enthusiastic. So yesterday I was talking to a lovely expert and I signed up to her course immediately. So I can imagine I'm going to be learning how to play the guitar by the end of this course. So tell us a little bit about. So you're the founder of Music in Offices. Tell us what is that? It's such a great initiative. But tell the audience listening to what is it?
So Music in Offices is a company which we bring musicians into businesses across the sectors, into the offices prior to the current situation we're in, to set up office choirs, weekly rehearsals, and to facilitate one-on-one instrumental lessons and singing lessons for busy, stressed city workers was the idea back in 2007 when I founded it. And yeah, it's just bringing music into the work environment for stress release, to bring people together, but also from a little bit of management, creative thinking, because music you can use so there's so much to music as a language and the health benefits. So I think I was inspired, having studied African music at university, inspired by the role that music plays in African societies in terms of it being just part of everyday life. And at the time, back in 2007, I just felt that music could play a bigger role in our life here in London.
So when you're saying about the health benefits and also about bringing people together, what are the health benefits of music? What are they?
Well, the health benefits are huge. From when you sing, you release the happy endorphins, you release serotonin, oxytocin, the trust chemical. But also you slow your heart rate down. So it's music and singing in a choir is now being socially prescribed for anxiety. It's a way to come together with others, and that feel good feeling just has so many biological and physical benefits to your health.
I mean, I know that I've got a couple of friends who are very much journalists like me, and they live in their heads, and they say that they belong to choirs, local choirs, and that for them, it's the one moment in their week where they're completely present and they don't think of anything else apart from being there. You talk about music being a kind of a language, kind of an emotional language. What do you mean by that?
Well, when you sing together, you are projecting yourself. There's a vulnerability that you allow others to see. And in the context of a business and a work environment where people are working in silos and often reacting very, very instantly, I think music is just a way to allow others in. It's a shared language. It's a language which everyone can communicate through gestures, but through singing, through listening, and through playing. It's a giving. It's giving something to the other when you make music.
So one is kind of, as you say, exposing a vulnerability, but there's also that kind of, as you say, it's a gift, isn't it? It's a gift of yourself, the gift of your voice. I love it. In terms of what's happening right now, when we can't gather together, I mean, what I've been noticing is the kind of Gareth Malone and all of these kind of online choirs, but you're doing a really amazing initiative at the moment with, I think it's called the Freddie Mac Choir. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so well, exactly that. All our choirs are online and are continuing each week, but you can't hear each other when you're rehearsing through Zoom. You can hear the conductor, but you still don't have that collective experience audibly, you physically can see everybody, and that has a really positive impact. But we want to create a virtual performance, raising money if possible for the Lord Mayor's Appeal charity, but it's free to participate, and that's not not obligatory. So you get open to anybody, open to friends, grandparents, children, to learn and to sing and upload your version of I Want to Break Free. We all remember the Queen video of that, so it'd be great to have some versions of people videoing themselves doing some hoovering, or however you want to take part. But yeah, we're hoping for it to be a London-wide big sing.
Yeah, a big sing. I love that we're all going to get together and big sing. So we will put the links for that onto the links below in a minute. So look out for that. In terms of what we're doing in terms of listening, when we were chatting earlier, you were talking about why music is a fantastic tool for being able to listen more. What did you mean by that? And I know that you've been curating a festival in Portugal, and you've actually curated a piece of music that's about silence.
Well, the theme of the festival in Portugal, the Setúbal Music Festival, which unfortunately would be happening in a couple of weeks, but will be postponed now to November. But yes, the theme of the festival is listening, because listening is really at the heart of everything we do. Music aside, it's relationships, it's the foundation of the relationships we have with other people. It's the foundation of the relationships we have with nature, with where we are. And now at this time of disquiet, we are all listening more to the silence around us, the quietness, even in London, hearing the birds. And with listening comes wonder, and we all could do with a little bit more wonder. And I think through participating in music, listening is inherent in everything we do. I think the early days when I studied piano, and I learned so much from those early days of just listening to the way I played the keys, listening to my teacher, listening to music, listening to how I responded to the musicians I was performing with later on when I was studying accompaniment, which is all about listening to being with the other. And I think in so many ways, listening is just at the heart of everything we do.
I mean, obviously we completely agree with that at Psychologies. So we've just got a big feature coming up in the next issue, which is all about the kind of skill of listening. But I've never thought about that really in terms of music, in that you're by listening, in terms of if you're singing in a choir or you're singing. For me, music is, especially nowadays, but when we plug in, it kind of sometimes it feels like disconnecting. I mean, I've got a teenage son, and what often he does is he plugs into his music to disconnect from me. But as you say, when you're sort of working in a choir or working in more of a group situation, perhaps in a choir in an office, there is a place of actually listening very hard to what everyone else is doing, to try and get literally in harmony with others.
And it's a really powerful activity to do collectively, listening to each other, listening in different ways. And I think then learning how to react to listening and allowing silence in conversation. We are all so used to fast-paced instant gratification, and I think that place of silence is really important to be comfortable with, or to begin to be comfortable with. The piece are programmed in Setúbal, John Cage's 4 minutes 33 seconds. That piece is designed to allow the audience to take part in the music and to understand how silence is actually very present. It's a very present energy. And I think when we're listening, when we're truly listening, it does require a lot of energy and a lot of sort of active participation, and that can so quickly and easily be lost in the fast-paced world that we were living in. And who knows what the new normal will be, but hopefully it will allow for a slower pace and more silence.
More silence and the kind of space to listen. I mean, Psychologies, I'm always trying to say to the team, in terms of our social media output, that I just don't want to be part of the noise. I actually want to be able to obviously create amazing content, but also just to So as you say, it's a kind of a relationship, isn't it? It's a listening and creating silence as well as output. And it feels like sometimes, well, I think what this period has done with the coronavirus, it is allowed, it's been called the Great Pause, or sometimes the Great Reset. And there's this sense of, we all went a bit crazy in the first few weeks and busy. And everyone is really kind of dropping down into this much slower pace. Well, some of us are. I think for a lot of people on the front line, it's a different story. Thank you for them. But for many people, it's this kind of listening, more of a listening rather than output. And I think many of us perhaps have been scared about listening to the answers. We've been running so fast because we didn't want to hear what maybe our soul was screaming.
Yeah, well, it's listening to ourselves as well. To really fully be present, you have to be listening to your inner self, and that's where creativity comes from. That's where in new ideas and inspiration, you have to have a place of quiet. And I'm sure writers, well, as a writer, you do need a clarity of thought, and if there's, which is hard at this time, even with families, to have your own mind in amongst the homeschooling and the juggling and but that is something which I'm sure many of us will be trying to take forward, is this slower pace and this allowing of space around us.
Yeah, sure. And then there's, you say about creativity as well. I'm interested in this piece about learning how to play an instrument. I mean, many of us may have learnt the recorder or learn an instrument at school when we were children, but I see a lot of the Psychologies community now trying to learn instruments, and I know that's part of your business as well. But why does learning an instrument, why does that help your mental well-being?
When you're learning to learn, you have a discipline, you have something to practice, and it's a sense of achievement as well, especially when as adults, as busy we're working, there's not much time to do something for yourself. And that's what at the Heart of Music and Offices, how it began, was just to allow half an hour of creativity, of music making each week for individuals to learn something new. Or often it was picking up something that they'd stopped, and picking up the piano, which perhaps they'd stopped when they were 12, 13, and having that opportunity to do something for themselves in the working day. After work and at weekends is often given time to other people. It's not easy to go away and have your lesson. So being able to do it in the working day was very quickly a popular way for people to be making music again and to be learning something new, which does take dedication. Learning a language, learning anything as an adult, it requires commitment and requires a sort of a dedication to it. And we try and help people with that by providing concerts and performance opportunities, because it is easier to work towards something. Yeah. So that's been a really important focus for us at this time as well, to continue those performance opportunities, which obviously couldn't happen in the venues which we're so used to holding them in. But what Zoom offers is a different kind of opportunity, because it's enabled people to invite their grandparents and their cousins in Australia and their long lost friends in Canada. And we had one pupil who said it's the first time in 20 years that she'd been bold enough to perform, or confident enough to perform from the comfort of her own living room. And for her, it was the highlight of her family's week or month, she actually said, because they'd never seen her perform the piano, and her grandparents would never have been able to travel into the centre of town to a concert venue. So being able to share that in quite intimate, surprisingly intimate session on Zoom has been a really added bonus at this time.
I mean, I think the idea of, I think you're right. I mean, because I'm a journalist and a writer, I find it very hard to create without a deadline. So I suppose it might be the same with an instrument. I mean, so we did a piece not so long ago about someone learning how to play the harp. And in terms of decreasing anxiety massively, this lady just found she tried every which way to decrease anxiety, be it medication and mindfulness. But the one thing she found is by literally doing something. She couldn't think of anything else. I mean, other people find it through surfing or literally absorbing yourself in one activity. But this lady found it through playing the harp. And I think that will probably be the same as if you learn to play an instrument, it's so hard to do and you're trying to figure it out that you give it your full focus. And then there's the learning piece. But I think the performance piece is very much about, I mean, it's a joy to share a gift, isn't it? So be it with your work colleagues, I can't imagine what that would be like, but also with your family. And as you say, on a Zoom call, to share it, you know, to connect ourselves. I couldn't think of anything more blissful and brilliant than being able to do that. You know, not me doing it, but, you know, if you could learn something and then hear someone doing it, if you use this time to sort of learn an instrument, I just think that is such a fantastic idea in terms of, in every way, you know, in terms of connection, in terms of learning something new, in terms of a mindful activity. All of those things I would suspect will come together to create a kind of the golden triangle of mental health. And again, you know, we talk a lot in psychologies, we love therapy and we love coaching, but it still keeps us very much in our heads. And I think singing or learning an instrument is very embodied, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. It's embodied and it's so detailed. The minutiae of, for a complete beginner, I teach the global CEO of a law firm, and the contrast to he's never played the piano before, but to his lessons where we're literally, you know, trying to connect the brain to the fingers and making those minutiae movements, the contrast between the detail and the focus that he has in that moment to the previous hour where he's been given his big global address and addressing the sort of the bigger picture, the overview, if you like. I think that is also part of learning as an adult, having something which you're doing for yourself, but which requires such focus and absolute presence. That is something which isn't always part of our daily life, which I think is really important to cultivate.
Yeah. And again, it's something that, rather that, you know, so people may struggle to meditate every day, but if you were learning an instrument or doing a scale on the piano or just to sing, I mean, you know, so again, it doesn't have to cost anything to sing. And, you know, what's been wonderful about what we're seeing in this period is that there's many free resources. So I just wanted to say that, but I'm going to share the link in a second. But for people who want to join Tessa and Music and Officers with the I Want to Break Free initiative, then I'm just going to share the link in a second, and then you can join and we can all learn to sing together in a brilliant, I think it's a brilliant idea, Tessa. Thank you so much for your time today. That was really, I feel inspired. I do. I'm not quite sure I'm going to learn an instrument, but I think I could sing a bit.
Yeah, well, that'd be great to have you involved, Susie. Thank you. And thank you for having me.
Great. Well, thank you so much for your time today. Lots of love and have a great rest of the day.
Thank you. You too.
Bye-bye.